Yo, what's good, guys? So, the point of this video is just to ask one specific question. Has a platformer fighter you've played ever stuck with you? You know, it's no secret that platformer fighters are, a genre now, right? That we've had multiple games that aren't called Smash Brothers that has, popped up over the last few years, kind of just trying to make a good game out of a similar concept as Smash Brothers. Now we're pretty much just comfortable referring to them as platformer fighters, and it seems with the announcement and release of Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl and the newly released Multiverses, it seems like it's becoming slightly more popular, or at least, companies are starting to put more attention on it. It isn't the first time. We've had many games before this, games like Rivals of Aether, Slap City, Brawlhalla, that have all, attempted their own way of trying to capitalize on the popularity that is Super Smash Brothers, and in some cases it works better than others. In some cases they just bomb horrendously. But this video isn't really about whether or not these games are good or bad. It's more so about, has any of these games specifically stuck with you? Because in my personal opinion, and in my personal experience, obviously Smash Brothers has stuck, but we're not going to be talking about Smash Brothers. I want to know what platformer fighters have stuck with you that is just not Smash. Because as of right now, whenever I go to any kind of Nintendo events and we talk about platformer fighters, it seems that the only games people want to talk about are either Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and any Super Smash Bros. Game that came before, whether that be Melee, whether that be modifications like Project M, whatever the case may be. Usually people just want to talk about those games, but I want to talk about the games that are not made by Nintendo. I want to talk about Rivals of Aether, I want to talk about Slap City, I want to talk about Brawlhalla, I want to talk about Multiverses, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. I want to talk about all of these games that have released at different times of the genre's, flourish, and just, I want to know which games have you stuck by. Because I noticed that every time this conversation pops up, everyone wants to talk about Smash Brothers, but, me, a person who has played a lot of these platformer fighters over the years, it seems common that I'll mention one of these games and someone either responds with one or two answers, which is either A, they've never played or heard of that game, or B, they've heard of the game and they've tried it, but they didn't really stick by it and they don't really play it anymore. So I'm very curious to know what the Nintendo fanbase, or hell, maybe not even the Nintendo fanbase, or the, more like the platformer fighter fanbase on PC, because there is a bit of a market there on PC. Which games have you stuck by, or if you've, stuck by any of them? And we've seen some platformers just outright fail for a multitude of different reasons. We used to have Icons, we used to have Brawlout, and I mean, you can kind of argue the quality of those games, and of course we can, but that's not the point of this video. I just want to know if there's any platformer fighter at all that's out there that you've stuck by. I want to know what those games are, because personally, in my experience, the only platformer fighters that I've essentially stuck with that isn't called Super Smash Brothers has been Rivals of Aether and Slap City. Those are the two that I've come back to, and as of right now, at the time of this recording, I do not yet own a copy of Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. Maybe I'll pick that up sometime soon and see, get a much better opinion of it. I have played it, but I feel as though I need to be able to get my hands dirty with the game, really get into the game, into the nitty-gritty, and kind of like see if it's the sort of platformer fighter that I see myself playing in the long run. The only experience I have with the game seems to be that it has some wildly janky hitboxes that make little to no sense, that feels a lot worse than the typical platformer fighter I'm used to playing. But I digress. I haven't played it enough for me to give an opinion on whether or not that is a game that I'm going to stick by for whatever reason. But as of right now, the only platformer fighters that I've played and I've come back to has been Rivals of Aether and Slap City. More so Rivals of Aether. I want to say that compared to any other platformer fighter out there, again, that's not made by Nintendo, Rivals of Aether definitely has the most playtime on it. I've played it on pretty much 3 different platforms at this point. I used to play it on Xbox, but that version doesn't really get updates or anything like that. And then there's also the PC version that has a really good dedicated Steam Workshop, and then you have the Switch version. Most of the time, if I'm gonna play with friends and I'm trying to just play the game normally, I'll play it on my Switch. But you know, it's also just kind of fun to like look around and see what ridiculous characters people have created for the PC version of Rivals of Aether. So for that reason, I do see myself coming back to Rivals of Aether every now and then. Sometimes I'll, you know, hit up one of my friends and I'll just say like, yo, you want to run some Rivals? And we'll play some Rivals, and it's a good time. It's a good time every time I've booted up that game, and it's crazy. Like, it's just a really good platformer fighter. And you know, if you're watching this video and you're looking for games like this to check out and you haven't played Rivals, I highly recommend you check out Rivals of Aether. It is on the Switch, it is on PC. Those are the two versions I would recommend. Primarily, if you want to mess around with some custom characters, I would say go for the PC version. That is by far the best version due to those reasons. There are many other platformer fighters out there, like I've mentioned earlier. I've also played a bit of Slap City. I've come back to Slap City a few times. We had Brawl Out, which didn't really, you know, it wasn't all that. We had Icons, which is another platformer fighter that just wasn't all that. We also have Brawlhalla, which is a very popular platformer fighter. It's one that I'm not personally really into. I don't really like how the game plays necessarily, but they do keep getting a lot of content updates. It is also free to play, so you can kind of just jump in. I believe, to my knowledge, I think the last like crossover they did is with Street Fighter. So I think they have like Ryu, Chun-Li, and Akuma. So Street Fighter is everywhere. Like, it doesn't seem to matter. Like, if you are a video game, there's a good chance that Street Fighter wants in on that universe. Because we've seen Street Fighter in Smash, I've seen it in Brawlhalla, we've seen it in Fortnite. Like, Street Fighter is just everywhere that any game would allow them to be into. So if you want to check out Brawlhalla, you can check it out. There's not really much to lose there, other than, I guess, your time, considering that it is a free-to-play game. So I don't see why not check it out. It may not be my cup of tea, but it might be yours. So feel free to, you know, install the game, check it out, see if it's anything you like. But yeah, that's kind of just the end of the video for the most part. I'm just really curious to know, like, what platformer fighters out there have you guys stuck by? Do you still play to this day? And what your reasons are for playing those games? Because, I don't know, it just feels like every time I talk to people about platformer fighters that isn't Smash, it seems very common that people either have never heard of any of these games, or either unfamiliar that it's even a genre at this point, or that they have played these games, but they just haven't really stuck by it. Like, maybe they tried it out for a week and then they just stopped playing it entirely. So, I don't know. I think it's a little interesting. I'm kind of curious to know how other people feel about it and what games they stuck by throughout all this time. And yeah, that's kind of it. So, let me know in the comments down below, which platformer fighter do you play? And if you haven't played any, why is that? Why haven't you tried out any of these other games out there? But that's all I have for you guys. So until then, I'll see you guys in the next one.
Shifty, yeah, Shifty, wanna be the #1 gamer, come and get me. It'd be dope if you subscribe, could you like the vid, please? Take your time, you don't gotta do it swiftly. Shifty, Shifty, wanna be the #1 gamer, come and get me.